The big question.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this new series that I've just started. I'm calling this series The Big Question, and in it I aim to look at and address and talk about any big issues and big questions that people have around e-commerce. This is more of a opinion piece rather than the more scripted, researched approach that I take with the e-commerce today series of videos. So if there's a burning question you've got about e-commerce and starting a store or running a store, let me know. I'll be happy to take any and all questions you might have. And to start with, I wanted to tell you a bit about me first of all, so that you know I'm not just Joe Blogs. You probably don't know who I am, that's fine, but if I tell you a bit about my background, so you kind of understand where I'm coming from and why I might be in some ways qualified to talk about this stuff. So I've been involved in e-commerce, and specifically in e-commerce development, since 2010. In that time I started my journey as a Magento developer. That was back in Magento 1.3 I think it was back then, and that's where my journey really started. So since then I've kind of progressed through countless projects and countless stores. I now develop Magento 2, and in recent years I've moved a bit more into kind of a tech lead, project management kind of role in terms of how I work with clients. I quite often work alongside agencies for particular projects I might need help on. So I've kind of been involved in the world of e-commerce for about 14 years now, so a fair while. And over that time I've seen clients of all kinds, from large businesses tackling large scale setups to smaller family run type stores that have maybe one bricks and mortar store and an online presence. So I've seen all kinds, and I kind of hope that I understand to a decent extent what it requires to successfully run an e-commerce store, and what you need to have in place and what you need to do to make that really work. So this series is kind of trying to answer some of those questions that I see asked quite a lot around the place, in places like, it might be online forums, it might be question and answer sites like 𝗗𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗏𝗃, places like that, where I see common questions crop up over and over. So I want to answer some of those questions. It might be questions around someone who's starting their e-commerce journey, or it might be a question around someone who's established and is considering a new approach. I'll be answering all kinds, but today I wanted to answer one of the questions that might be asked more at the start of the e-commerce journey, if you like, and that is, how much does it cost to start an e-commerce store? And that kind of goes hand in hand with, also I see a lot of questions is, how cheaply can I start an e-commerce store? How cheap is it to build an e-commerce store? And these questions tend to feel like they're coming from the perspective of someone who's considering getting into e-commerce. They want to get a bit of a picture of what the cost of that might look like before they actually sort of put their money behind it and actually start a store. My feeling about questions like this is that there may be more to it than the asker or the person who's asking that question might realise at that stage. It's unfortunately not the reality that you just get a store, you build a store, you put it online, everyone starts buying from you. I think any established business who is running an e-commerce store knows that's just impossible. The reality of the e-commerce industry at the moment, and this will only increase going forward, is that it's hugely competitive, literally any field and anything that you find that you want to sell online, there's going to be competition, and there's going to be established, time-proven competition as well. There's going to be that shop or that number of shops that are kind of the go-to source for people to use and to go and to buy from. So I guess the kind of ultimate example of that would be Amazon. You know, that's kind of the go-to e-commerce store for most things that you can buy for a lot of people. And there's a lot to be said about being that default option. If you manage to get to the point where you become that default option, the easy option that people know and trust and go to over and over, then you've got a really, really good thing, and you should fight to keep hold of that. That's basically what Amazon's got. So many people trust Amazon, many people buy from Amazon over and over again. So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that just getting the store and getting it online, even though you can do that on a budget, you know, if you can start a basic Shopify store, you can get that online and selling for, you know, a minimal monthly fee realistically. But that really is only the very start of the journey. So pretty much anyone can get a store. They can get a store online, and actually during the pandemic, when a lot of people were at home, getting a bit bored, thinking about what they can do, lots and lots and lots of people started e-commerce stores, and Shopify really benefited from this. So they took on loads of new stores, loads of new people building stores, and at the same time they took on loads of new staff to cater for this new business, this new uptick in the business they were doing. And a while ago in the eCommerce Today videos, I covered a story about Shopify and how they'd laid off loads of staff. I think they laid off 1,000 staff or something. I can't remember the exact number now, but that was basically because they didn't need these staff anymore, because many of those people who had started stores during the pandemic and they'd built themselves a Shopify store and they'd put it online, and at that point they'd realised, okay, it's not that simple. I can get the store online, but getting people to actually visit your store and buy from your store is a completely different matter. So that's the part that's the real challenge when you're starting a new online store and you're trying to get people onto your store and buying. So the question shouldn't really be so much how cheaply can I get a store online, because the answer is you can get a store online very cheaply if you want to. The question is much more, how can I make this a viable business? If you want to start an e-commerce store and you want that to be essentially your job, and the income that you get from that basically pays your way and pays your monthly bills, etc., that is a much bigger challenge than initially getting that store online. So what you need to be aware of if you're asking this question now, how cheaply can I build a store, you need to take a bit of a longer term look at this and a longer term approach, and consider kind of the wider picture of everything that needs to be in place for you to actually make it a viable business. So e-commerce just is hugely competitive. It's a hugely crowded market, but that's not to say there aren't huge opportunities there. It's difficult to break into, and it's difficult to get to that position where you're kind of that go-to option and you're that store that people want to go to again and again and buy from. That is a real challenge. Don't underestimate how much it takes to get there, and it takes money, it takes time, it takes resilience. You just got to keep pushing, and in the end, if you put enough time and you've put enough money into it, then you will get there. But it's not going to be cheap, it's not going to be easy to do. So if you're coming to e-commerce and you're thinking, oh, it's an easy option, you know, I just start a store, people will just start buying from me and I can quit my job kind of thing. So unfortunately, not the reality. You know, you got to think about some of the big names in e-commerce. So I've already said Amazon, but there's loads of big stores. Any online store that you've seen that you probably buy from, that is established, that is kind of your go-to option in whatever product you're looking to buy, they will have spent countless hours and countless thousands of pounds to get to that point. So just consider that when you're kind of thinking about how cheap is a store. Just understand that's the very start of the journey. So while it's no small task to build a store and to get a store online and to get it looking good and to get it ranking well in search engines, that in itself is a whole other thing, or the SEO side. I may do a video on that at some point, but that's a huge topic in itself. But anyway, getting that store online, built well, optimized for search engines, is a big task in itself. But then the long haul, or the long grind, starts of actually building your customer base and getting that data of your customers that you need in order to make that store truly successful and become your main source of income, and then, you know, main source of income for multiple people. When I see questions like that, how cheaply can I create an online store, create an e-commerce store, or how much should it cost to create an online store, there are many times that there are answers which say, yeah, you can make a store pretty cheaply, do X, Y, Z, and they're completely correct. You can do those things and you can create a pretty quick cheap store online, but the reality is very different. You can create a store for cheap, but you can't make it successful for cheap. That's just not a reality in the world of e-commerce today. So if you're someone thinking about, maybe I'm going to start a store soon, just do your due diligence in terms of research and your customer base, and look at the competition. What is the competition doing? Find out whatever you can information about their sales. Try and analyze the best you can about their advertising practices. So do you see their adverts all over the place? If you search for relevant terms in Google, do you see a Google ad? If you watch relevant videos on YouTube, do you see a video ad? On relevant forums, Reddit, Quora, wherever, do you see ads on there? So you'll find that a lot of the big players have a pretty big marketing and advertising budget every month to spend on that. So if, you know, your competition is spending, you know, 20k plus on marketing and advertising, probably that's a small budget for some of the bigger names. You need to be really efficient and really targeted in how you're going to reach your customer base and communicate your message and why you're unique to your customer base. And that's not an easily done thing. So I would say, if you're serious about e-commerce and starting a store, and you have a decent amount of money to put towards it, and this is not just a couple of grand, we're probably talking in the tens of thousands here for a decent store build, and then a good budget after that for sales, marketing, everyone you need to get in place to actually run and operate that store on a daily basis. If you're at that point and you're serious, absolutely go for it. But if you're kind of just thinking, let's just try this on my own, e-commerce is not really now a one-man band kind of operation. 10-15 years ago, sure, you could create a store, you could get it online pretty cheap, and because the competition just wasn't there nearly as much, there was some competition, but nothing like there is today. If the competition wasn't there, then you could realistically get a store online and selling and make it relatively successful just on your own. The reality is now that that's just not possible. You need a team of people running and operating that store for you, and that is a bare minimum. 5 or 6 people probably would be realistic for a store that's actually selling, to cater for those customers and have salespeople and customer services and everyone in place that you need to actually operate that store. So I hope that's kind of a sort of interesting, sort of useful video. I'm kind of trying to aim with these videos, I guess, to just give a bit of clarity and insight into the world of e-commerce from someone who's been in it for a while and kind of understands how it works and sees how different businesses run their e-commerce operations and what's involved, and the number of people involved and the spend involved. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please do come and visit us at Developer Connection. So I'm the founder of that service, and that service we use to connect stores with high quality but cost effective developers which are specific to e-commerce across the UK. So you can come to our site and you can create a project, and in creating a project you just tell us a little bit about your store and what you're trying to achieve, and then we will automatically and instantly match you to a number of e-commerce specific developers which very closely match the needs of your store and what you need developing and the work that you need done on that. So come and give us a visit at that. There's a blog on there with all kinds of posts on it. A lot of it is talking about these kind of things that I'm covering and going to cover in this video. If you have any thoughts or questions you would like me to talk about or address, then please do add them in the comments. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.